Alright, well, this is a Lone Star Armory 264 LBC, also known as 6.5mm Grendel. Lone Star Armory is out of Fort Worth, Texas. This is actually a demo gun that they have signed out right now to Brian, my good friend who runs Carpe SUS, the YouTube channel. So check out his videos featuring this rifle. He's generously offered to let me use it for a week or so. I had some 110 grain Lehigh Controlled Chaos bullets that I wanted to do some load development with, and I thought the LSA would be a perfect platform to do that with. Here I have my loopholed 8.5 by 25 target scope and my own suppressor that I'll screw on the end of that. Currently, the estimate of round count that Brian put on the LSA while it's been in his use is 275 rounds. So just as a matter of good practice, when taking a gun from someone else, I'll go ahead and tear this down, clean it, lube it, and reassemble. Alright, we're at the range on a beautiful Saturday morning, June 27th. I've got the Lone Star Armory TX-15 MPC-E. And the rounds that we just loaded up, Lehigh Defense 110 grain Controlled Chaos. We'll collect some chronograph data today, get some velocities, and then we'll shoot for groups at 100. And see which of the charge weights is best suited for the LSA. Go for dead center of the silhouette. We're going to shoot the first charge weight of 27.5 grains. I got 3 shots. We'll shoot it magazine fed. I've got the rifle bagged rear and front. Chronograph is ready. And we will go for dead center of the target at 100 yards. So for this first group, I'll just give you a visual from behind the shooter, and then I'll move the camera down to the target so we can record the groupings as they unfold. will use tack powder. I've got some load data from Lehigh they've posted, and they indicate that tack might be a good match, starting at 27 grains going to 29 grains for an estimated velocity of 2470, and that's in a 16-inch barrel. The LSA actually runs an 18-inch barrel. So we'll see which charge weight groups best in the LSA, and we'll load up the rest of those bullets with that charge weight, and we'll go after some pigs with it. We'll take some measurements with this 110 grain Controlled Chaos bullet. They have two versions, actually, Lehigh does, that's why I have two boxes out. The one on the left, I've previously loaded that. It's a brass Controlled Chaos brass bullet. They're not really optimal for hunting. They don't open up or disrupt real well. So I have a number of those from previous use of Grendel, and I use it as a plinking round. But the featured for the load development for the LSA will be this copper version of the Controlled Chaos, which is 110 grains. Has a open tip on the end of it, and I've generally had very good experience using Lehigh Defense bullets. They're accurate by the way that they manufacture them. They're very consistent. So with the Bartlein barrel in the LSA, this ought to make for a pretty accurate and lethal combination. At least that's my hope and goals for this project. Alright, generally a step that I like to integrate into my reloading for a new rifle with a new bullet is I take a look at the guidelines that you get for load data that includes cartridge overall length 2.250 inches. However, I do have some barrels in my experience that are shorter, whether that's free bore, throat, whatever you want to call it. The bullet bearing surface contacts the rifling prematurely to what the stated guidelines are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a Grendel 6.5 Grendel case that I've modified. I drilled out the back to allow me to push the bullet from behind when it's resting in the chamber, and then I start this very short in that fashion. So I'll drop this into the chamber of the LSA, push it till it's all the way in, and then with some sort of device you come through the rear of that modified case and you push that bullet till it contacts the lands. I'll have to do this off camera, but I use this cleaning rod to then go down the muzzle end of the barrel, gently push that bullet out, and then I will take a measurement of what the overall length is. I'll do this 3 times, and then I'll generally factor the average. 2.3405. This is a good example of why you don't just take 1 or 2 measurements. The first time I did this, 2.3255, second 3375, third 3390, fourth 3405. We're going to proceed. Again, this was just more or less a process that I add to my loading to make sure that I'm within safe operating limits with a new rifle and a new bullet. Alright, in order to load up the hand loads for the 110 grain Controlled Chaos, I've got once fired Grendel Hornady brass. I've already got it sized, primed, chamfered, deburred, basically ready to charge. But before going through that, another process that I add into my reloading procedures is to do a check to make sure that this is going to chamber in the rifle you're loading them for. So you should be able just to drop in the case and hear a clunk. There's that clunk. And then turn the rifle over and let gravity hand you that case back. There you go. So I'll do that with 4 or 5 cases out of the batch, just to be sure that I sized them correctly and that bolt's going to be able to close. There's that thunk. And that we won't have any issues after we've dumped powder and pressed bullets into cases. 2 more. Thunk. Last one. Okay, should be good to go. Alright, another consideration I have when hand loading for a rifle. This has an adjustable gas block provided by LSA as part of the MPC-E line of rifles. It's a Superlative Arms gas system that you can either restrict gas by turning the screw clockwise in, or you can bleed off gas by turning the screw counterclockwise out, and it vents and bleeds off gas out of this gas block design. So you have the option of just running it, actually 4 ways. You can run it fully closed, which is no gas, the bolt won't cycle. You can run it fully open, which is 4.5 revolutions counterclockwise from fully closed, and then you can restrict or bleed off. So a consideration when hand loading, you want as much gas, within reason. You don't want malfunctions if you're overgassed. But if the weapon is tuned, as the LSA is, it's tuned to run at full gas and not have any issues whatsoever. So what I did is I went in and checked the gas block and put it at full gas open for the load development, and then after you settle on a load, then you can go in and tune to a specific load for the best recoil impulse, smoothest, flattest shooting feel for the gun. That's reliable. Alright, so that was a gas block I put here fully open. Another consideration is magazines. There's 4 or 5 varieties of 6.5 Grendel magazines. I run the ASC mags. They generally give you a pretty long cartridge overall length that you can load to. This is a oldie, well-used magazine. The feed lips are tuned. It works. I recently had a new magazine that I tried in a few different weapons, Grendel, and it was malfunctioning, and I actually had to tune those feed lips and match them to this magazine here. So for this specific load that we're loading, I went ahead and put this cartridge overall length base to tip of bullet at 2.30 inches. I've got a little bit of breathing room on the front of that to account for the bend, the contour of the mag, and how they double stack with the case body. That is much longer than the standard AR-15 length. However, you can tell here, and it's just to the edge at 2.30. So what I'm going to do is just press that in a little bit further.
Okay, going up 27.5. And now to 28.
Alright, got our charged cases. Come over to the arbor press, and I'm using a L.E. Wilson seating die. So these are a little bit different. I like them for some calibers. You basically put the charged case on here, the plate, and then you slide over the chamber sizer. You throw the bullet in the top, set this on top of the bullet, and then hand press it. So it has an adjustment on the top with the flat blade, and you can move that seating stem up or down. So right now I'm a little long, so I'm going to make an adjustment here. And again, my target is about 2.290 inches. Okay, 2.2890, so 2.2885 right there in that area.
.895. The Lehighs are going to be pretty consistent on the bullet projectile length itself, so you shouldn't have too much variance like you would see using maybe some Hornady spire points or some spear soft points, where those bullet lengths are a little bit different. 2.2905. Alright, so I'll work through the rest of these here.
Alright, the final process that I run through is a Lee factory crimp die. Not necessary, but I like to crimp the case to the bullet. In a semi-auto gun, as the cyclic action of the rifle is doing this with the cases inside of a magazine. You can have setback occur, or if you have a hard feed into the chamber, as it gets stripped from the magazine, travels through the barrel extension, gets chambered with the bolt force. Sometimes that can change the seating of your bullet to your case. So for me, I use a crimp die, but it's not necessary for everybody. Just go with one pass in there and I can see the crimp visually. I don't over crimp. You set these a specific way, and when I put this all the way down, I can see a little bit of light around the collet. And there we have a finished case. Ready to go.